This is Gateway City Sports.
It's a trap!
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
This is the Team of Rivals podcast.
Everything you want to hear from the big sports to the big screen.
He's all by himself, fires into the end zone. Caught! Touchdown! No!
Vaughn into the windup in his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed.
He doesn't like you. I don't like you either.
Time winding down. Michael for three. Yes! She is gone! I don't believe what I just saw.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy! You believe in miracles? Yes!
You may fire when ready.
What?
Good evening, Cubs and Cardinals fans. It's Thursday, September 16th, 2021, and this is the Team of Rivals podcast, proud members of the Gateway City Sports Network, where you can find all kinds of good old-fashioned sports talks, blogs, podcasts like ours, podcasts like Derrick's. Oh, it's so good.
Get that rust off.
I told you it was going to happen. I told you it was likely that I hit a speed bump early on. That's fine. You know, it's been about, I didn't want to go on 2 or 3 weeks without us recording anything. So Elliot and I are with you tonight. We don't know where Pete's at. Hopefully he's okay. Maybe he's bought that rhino down in Florida and he's opened up a park or something. I don't know. He told me something one time, but I was half in the bag when he was talking to me about it. So I'm trying to catch up with him now for 6 months to figure out what he's doing. But he's not joining us tonight unless he pops in here unannounced. So we've invited a friend back onto the show, my old co-host from Cards on Deck. That is Derrick King of the Derrick King Sports Show of Gateway City Sports. Derrick, it's great to have you joining us again. It's been a while since you and I have been able to do something like this, but I know you filled in for me a few weeks ago, and I appreciate that. It was a great show.
Well, you know, it's really difficult to carry the size of jockey strap that's necessary to cover for the great Ron Nuttall.
You can stitch a couple of them together. It might work.
Well, you know, I mean, I just had to get the largest grapefruit I could find at the local grocery store and just stick it down in there. It was just,
there you go.
It was a god-awful mess, but I did the best with what I had.
No, here's the deal. So my 7-year-old, not 7-year-old, Jesus Christ, I have too many kids to keep track of their ages. My 10-year-old who's playing fall league baseball now. He loves to catch. Right, that's his favorite position. Although he's expanding out a little bit more this fall. He's played a lot of shortstop, second base, even some center field. Does not like wearing a cup, and I guess he's at age where there's no fear of getting hit down there. It might be funny to him. He doesn't like wearing the cup, not because it's uncomfortable. And I quote, "It's because it makes my penis look fat." He doesn't get it yet.
Okay. Okay.
Didn't think that's where the story was going.
Elliot, do you notice the way the shirt in Derrick's background is kind of laying and it's making that last name look like a certain word? Okay, we're not going to talk about it. We're not going to talk about it.
Should I make the correction?
No.
How dare you, sir?
The video is not.
How dare you?
There's no video on this.
5 minutes ago.
There's no video on this. We're not.
Perfect.
No video. Don't worry. You don't have to correct anything.
No, it's all good.
But so baseball's been a tough thing. I know I went on my rant a few weeks ago how baseball's been very tough to me. When you have a finite amount of time, finite amount of mental bandwidth, you got to start really knocking off those critical things that aren't critical to you on a daily basis. And baseball was one of them for a long time. In fact, I hadn't turned on a game, guys, and watched more than just a pitch or two for weeks. And I'm not kidding, for weeks until this week. It has nothing to do with the winning trend. It has to do with breathing room at night after you're done with work. Took a little bit of new position in my company. It's been exhausting. The kids, fall sports have started up. We've got kids soccer for the 8 and the 5-year-old, fall baseball for the 10-year-old. And finally this week, in a couple nights, I was able to actually sit down and just turn something on just to ignore the rest of the world. Happened to be baseball. I have a clip I'll play a little bit later because my wife joined me for one of the games, and she was in rare form. But let me kind of go around the table here. Elliot, I haven't barely even let you talk tonight. I'm sorry. I don't have the routine down like Pete does, but I'm glad you were able to make it tonight because I was going to do this by myself. I was glad to. And I would have done it live if I was by myself, just to put even more added pressure on. But you've been all right, right? I mean, you've been surviving. Your team tore down, dismantled.
Yep.
But
hey, man, it's been fun. I've been watching Frank the Tank tear it up in the Schwindy City.
Schwindy, yes, I've seen that flying around.
Yeah,
Derrick, I know you and I had talked offline before, and it had been a while since you had really been able to spend time actually watching baseball live, and I've been the same way. I've been watching the condensed games every now and then, just reading the box scores. I can only last about 5 seconds on Twitter before I just get sick of reading the same old shit all the time from the same people. I mean, you know, if you want update, if you want to take a rectal temperature of the Cardinals fans, you want that authentic temperature of Cardinals Nation, just go on Twitter for about 5 seconds and scroll.
I almost think that it's somewhat of a false reading to a certain extent because it almost seems like Twitter has gotten to a point where it's just, you might as well hang a banner above the door that just says, bitch bags welcome. Just cry babies welcome. Just get on here and bellyache and cry and moan.
Bitch bags welcome.
Yeah. Bitch bags welcome.
Okay.
You are welcome here. And I'm tired of it. I'm fed up with it. I'm frustrated with it. Here's the thing. I'm not going to turd polish. I'm not going to sit here and try to make something out of nothing. The fact of the matter is this Cardinals team is just frustrating, and that's the best word that I can possibly use to describe this team. I can remember 2011, third baseline, me screaming at David Freese. I could literally just about reach out and slap him on his taut little hiney, and I'm screaming at this man. You need to go back to the minors. You need to learn how to play. You don't know what you're doing. You're stinking out the joint. I just rode him like a show pony all game long. And you know what? Guess what happened?
He's the hometown hero. He's a hometown legend hero.
Myself on the back a little bit. Hey, I'm somewhat of a catalyst that drove him to go, oh, maybe I should try a little harder or something like that, or whatever. Probably not, but still, irregardless, that's the way this team makes me feel. Is the way I felt in 2011 with that team, and eerily on the same path as that team from 2011 too as well.
Yeah, I mean, actually a little bit better off as far as the standings go right now. They weren't. I mean, there wasn't the. It was the two. Geez, it was the. That's the year, I believe. The year after that's when they introduced. I could be wrong, but I thought maybe 2012 was when they introduced the second wild card. I could be off by a year, but yeah, I remember that year very well, Derrick, and I remember 2006 when I thought that team was worse. They might not have been in the standings because the whole Central sucked in 2006. I think the Cubs finally kind of turned things around in 07 and 08. Still didn't win a single playoff game, but we don't want to talk about that tonight. We're not here to talk about 07 and 08. But the 2006 team was maddeningly inconsistent, frustrated, but it was very injured. The names were there. You know, the name power was there. They were just not all healthy at the same time. Finally, at the end of the year, things came together, and lo and behold, they the problem with this team this year is you don't have a guy like Albert in his prime on that team. You don't have as solid of a core, I would say, as you did in 2011. You certainly
Matt Holliday, Lance Berkman, Albert Pujols, Chris Carpenter, Alan Craig coming off the bench hitting dingers and doing what he did at that time period.
And an effective bullpen, which the bullpen, I'll give them credit. They've looked better in the last week. But you know that you could see the potential in the bullpen they had. They had an excess of arms. They made that deal late in the year where they brought in some reinforcements because the bullpen sucked most of the year up until August. So you could kind of see how that team could catch fire at the right time, and they did. But we'll see with this team. But I will warn fans that, okay, they're sitting alone in that second wild card position right now. But we've seen how quickly they've ruptured playing a series when they needed to do what needed to be done, and that's at least take 2 of 3. And we've seen them get swept by the Reds this year. We've seen them drop a couple key series against the Pirates. I'm not getting my hopes up. I'm not being a pessimist. I'm just trying to be realistic. I don't want to go on the roller coaster this year anymore. I'm kind of fatigued by it, and I know it sounds crazy, but I'm okay if baseball ends quickly this year. I'm totally okay with it. Elliot, it's not because I want to watch the Bears. Fuck, it only took 1 game to be reminded. But we'll get into football here pretty soon. But yeah, so look.
So are you saying that you're hoping the Cardinals either don't make the playoffs or they get bounced?
It's hard to ever root for your team once they're there and contending. It's very, very hard to root against them.
Yeah,
giving you one more ride before the year's over, right? That one more reason to want to get excited that day leading up to the game. Like it's a drug, and I'm gonna get it if they pull this off, and if they keep playing well enough to get in, it's going to be a drug that I'm not going to be able to avoid. But it comes with a potential consequence. And I've seen one of our friends on Twitter, Derrick, utter this a lot, and he's right to a point. The risk is, and a lot of Cardinals fans feel this way, as we know we did in 07 after 06 and 12 after 11. If they make it, fans fear that the front office will say, mission accomplished. We've got the team. They were a playoff contending team. We don't have to do much. We've got the guys we need. That's the fear that Cardinals fans have. So one of our mutual friends, Derrick, he's totally in that camp. A couple of them are actually. I will never be able to put myself completely there because I know how I'm going to get if they and their their reward if they make it is a game against the Dodgers. So congratulations. Here's your ticket in. Now you have to go beat LA, and they're going to be throwing Kershaw or Scherzer at you. So good luck, but
yeah, but you want to know what they're going to do? They're going to go out and they're going to be world beaters, and they're going to beat the best pitchers in the business because that's what they do. That's what the Cardinals' MO is. That's their history. They go out and they beat Kershaw. They go out and they beat Garrett Cole. They go out and beat the best pitchers in the league.
They've done
it.
Yet
they have some podunk, no nothing, triple-A lifetimer that comes up and does a spot start and just can go up and shit the bed against any other team. Mm-hmm. And yet the Cardinals manage to fall all over themselves like babes in the woods every single time and just throw up this golden sombrero.
With the exception of a few World Series teams in recent years, doesn't every team end up having a guy or two like that? All of a sudden at the end of the year, like, we don't even know who you are. In fact, I probably gave your card away in a set of commons that I traded my little brother who didn't know any better. And here you are, a la Scott Spezio type of player that nobody really thinks much of in the regular season, but you're like, I wouldn't mind having Spezio on my 26-man playoff roster because for some reason that guy has a gear, and other players are like that too. But it's I tell you, I squarely fall into the fact that if they're going to make it to the playoffs, I'm going to be rooting for them. I'm not going to be rooting against them. I do share the same concern that it'll be mission accomplished, and all we have to do is a few tweaks in the offseason. And it could be the case.
So for now, you're rooting don't make the playoffs so that they do something in the offseason. But if they happen to make the playoffs, I'm gonna cheer for you.
Well, here, we're kind of foolish if we think that look, they're in contention. There's about 16, 17 games left, depending on what your team's schedule looks like. They've been competitive for this long this year. Like, they've never been out of it. They hung in enough, and then they've played well enough just recently to make the cut, if it ended today. Right. And so it's still been a competitive. There's no guarantee, even if they miss it by a game or two, there's no guarantee that this front office does what people want them to do in the offseason. That's not a given anyway. So why root against them when they can say, well, we were in contention till day whatever, till game 158, game 159. Like, why bother rooting against it when, it may not happen?
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't that motivated to do. I mean, look, I can't say they didn't make impactful moves when they missed the playoffs in 16, 17. They went out and got Ozuna. They went out and got a guy like Paul Goldschmidt. And they made it last year, and they still went out and got a guy like Arenado. when you stop and think about those things, you're like, gosh, how stupid might we sound as fans to saying this front office isn't willing to do anything when they do? The problem we have that pay more attention to this stuff is they stop after that. That one guy they'll bring in and then they just stop. And we all know that there are other holes or insurance that they need to pick up just to get through the year.
I would even go as far as saying that in that time period when they went out and got Goldschmidt and Ozuna, let's not forget they had the deal done to get Giancarlo Stanton. So do we really sit here now and go, oh yeah, we really wanted Giancarlo Stanton? Really? I mean, he hasn't done that great since he's got to New York. Let's just make that clear. It's not like he's been this shining $200 million superstar like they've made him out to be to a certain extent. But the reality is
he's been injury prone too.
Exactly. And you know, I mean, you could look at any ball club.
Not to mention he cannot wear a mustache. It looks like shit on him.
No. Any ball club has made mistakes. They have went out and they've gotten players that they shouldn't have, or passed on players that they shouldn't have passed on. The Cardinals picked up Marcell Ozuna, and here's what frustrates me about the Cardinals organization. They never go out and get like the Nolan Arenado type of player, except for once in a while, right? Obviously, just getting Arenado recently has been that big move.
Yeah.
Before, they always try to bargain bin dumpster dive. Okay, we didn't get Stanton. Let's try Yelich. Okay, you don't want to move on Yelich? Okay, then we'll take your third best option in Ozuna. The fact of the matter is the reason they were willing to run on Ozuna was because they already saw what Ozuna was.
Yeah.
They already knew. And now look at where he's at. He's probably never going to suit up and ever play ball again.
Well, he may not. I think that whole thing, I'm not sure what happened with those charges down in Atlanta. And it's not that I'm rooting for that guy at all. I'm just saying I think there's more to that story that I'm just not aware of, so I don't feel like I can even talk about it. But when they got Ozuna that year, they were afraid that if they got into the bidding wars late in the free agency season, that they would walk away with nothing, basically. So they pulled the trigger early on something that year when they got Ozuna, because Yelich didn't go, I think, until January. And Milwaukee in early December wasn't willing to depart with him, regardless of what people say. And do you really want Yelich at this point anyway? He hasn't been that great. I mean, they blocked his view to right center field, where he could see his bullpen tipping him off what pitches were coming. He's been shit ever since. So, yeah, they have pulled the trigger rather early on some deals. I know the Arenado deal was a little bit later, but that was probably more on the Rockies' willingness to do it than it was the Cardinals wanting to do it. But, you know, I talked about the Cardinals. And this year, I think all we were looking for, look, a lot of money coming off the books, but there was a lot of money putting on. They actually have to start paying for Nolan Arenado next year. Still funny to think about the fact that he's going to have 30, you know, he's going to end this year with at least 35 home runs, likely, or close to it. And Cardinals didn't pay him this year, which is still just like I don't know what to think about that.
And just Gold Glove caliber defense. He does things at third base that I just shake my head at.
And we miss it because we haven't seen it since Scott Rowland.
Well, yeah, we have not seen, and I mean, even let's face it, I watched the entirety of Scott Rowland's career during the St. Louis years.
He was pretty damn good, though.
He was really good. Yeah. I think that he was a better batter. I think Arenado's better defensively.
I don't know. I'd have to say, I think those guys they have a different style of play, but I think they're pretty damn close.
Here's the thing about Arenado. He's more athletic. Rowland was strong.
I probably wouldn't.
So
yeah.
strong.
And Rowland, though, I mean, you think about how, hold on. Wait a second. Everybody slow down.
Wait, just a hot damn
I didn't
minute.
even see this, but it's here, and we're going to get to it here in a second. Look, having a body that size and being that athletic, that mobile and quick on your feet, I mean, that's Scott Rowland. I mean, the guy was huge, and then Nolan Arenado's like sneakily a large guy. You don't really notice it on TV. In fact, a lot of players, you really don't know how big they are until they're standing up against next to a reporter or something that's our size. But these guys are so athletic and so big. It's like Gronk. Those guys are the size of.
Speak for yourself.
Well, I was going to say, well, you just jumped on, and I was already heading down this road before you decided to join us out of the blue.
just jumped on. You just let me in. I've been sitting here for 10 minutes.
Well, the little windows here, there's a little pop-up thing that popped up.
I just saw his text message and it said texted 17 minutes ago.
Sorry, Pete. Good. You can lead us out then, but I would have
been happy to lead us in.
Well, I think we started before. And I wish you would have, because I'm not sure I did that very well. These guys you can probably go back and listen to it. I wouldn't, but I didn't lead us in very good. We're going to get off the Cardinal subject here in a minute, but Pete, just your take a little bit.
God.
They have they've played a little bit better, but I've been down this road before where you're like, look, hey, this team's finally coming. They're finally coming together. Pepper. No, they're not. They can turn on us this weekend and things can look ugly again by Monday. Like Twitter can be another hot mess here by the time we get Monday morning, but we'll see. But I mentioned earlier, like the one thing that they absolutely need to do this year is not take their pitching for granted and not say, hey, we can't possibly get hit with this many injuries next year as we did this year. So, with Wainwright coming back and Hudson coming off of Tommy John, Flaherty will be healthy again. We got Michaelis for another year. We've got Kim. We've got Reyes. We're trying to groom him into a starter next year. What they need is goddamn insurance. And they don't have it. They didn't plan for it this year, but they have to have it. We all know how important it is to stay protected. Sometimes life throws you a curve, and that's why you need Allstate. The Wiley Group has 2 locations in Festus and Arnold to serve you. They offer home, auto, boat, motorcycle, business, life insurance, investments, and so much more. They can offer you a customized approach that's unique to your situation to make sure you, your family, and assets are properly protected. They also offer great rates and savings. Give Sean a call today at 636-764-6294. They'll help you with an insurance quote right over the phone. Even give them a call if you want to talk sports. They do that too. We all have busy lives, so you can email Sean at SeanWiley@allstate.com. Talk to him about your coverage options. And remember, you're in good hands with Allstate. Pete, please take it over. Cubs, what are you guys enjoying right now? You have to be enjoying it a little bit because you're seeing what was there that you couldn't see before because it was kind of blocked. That's first question. Second question is, I imagine that watching Javi Baez now play for the Mets, you can finally admit how dumb he is as a player. You may have known it, Pete. Now, you're going to say you knew that already. But as a parent sometimes, you kind of know your kid's a blockhead. But finally, when he's old enough and graduates high school and he's still a blockhead, you're like, God, my kid's fucking dumb. I just wouldn't admit it. And I imagine that as a Cub fan watching Javier Baez play these days, you're like, Jesus Christ, he's as bad as I thought he was. And he's probably worse than I had a filter on because he was my guy.
No, actually, I would say, Jesus Christ, we got lucky that we got his best years, where the bravado and the daring benefited us, and the stupid plays were few and far between. Well,
and he had a lot of, and Derrick, like a player like that has a lot of players around him that can make up for a lot of his mental errors. That can provide air cover for that stuff. He didn't have that in New York. They don't have the talent assembled that they had in Chicago when he was really in his prime. They just don't have that in New York. He can make mistakes in Chicago over those years when they were really dominating the National League Central. He can't do that in New York now.
No, he can't. There's so many different players that thrive in a certain atmosphere. We've seen it time and time again. Certain hitters thrive in a certain ballpark. Look at what David Ortiz did in Fenway. A very hitter-friendly park, especially for a left-handed hitter. You got that short wall out there. There's other players that have thrived in certain places.
And in the World Series, you had a manager like Mike Matheny just throwing to him the whole series, even though he was
exactly.
And
it's so frustrating. You're sitting there screaming at the TV. You're shaking it, going, "Don't throw to him." Do anything. Hit him with the ball. I don't give a crap. My philosophy is this: if this guy is going to hit anything that I throw at him, I'm going to take the bat out of his hand. If he's going to do that much damage, if he's going to hit home runs, if he's going to push guys, if he's going to hit doubles, hit him to the gaps and stuff, I'm going to walk him every time, and I'll take my chances with the next batter because he can't run. You put him on base, he's as slow as molasses. So it's just that. You have to play within the realm of what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Don't even get me started on Matheny because I don't even want to go down that road.
Yeah, we're not gonna go there. We're not gonna go Cardinals manager talk tonight whatsoever. But guys, Cub fans here, how much fun are you having watching some of these players that are coming from out of nowhere? They're getting their chance. Some of them are making the most of it, and you still have
Patrick.
and you still have about, I think, 6 games left with St. Louis. Your team can play the role of spoiler, so that's something to watch. I mean, it's a meaningful game there, when meaningful games as far as standings go are probably gone, but there's at least some meaningful games when you get to play St. Louis to try to spoil their playoff hopes, right? That's got to be something to watch. Pete's not going to watch it, but
I've been watching it. I've been having a good time. I watched him take 2 or 3 from the Reds the other day. When
did you think he wouldn't, Pete?
In the hunt? So I hope they spoil it. I hope Rossi's go out there and wreck it for him, boys. Might as well. I mean, it's not like they have a shit ton to play for the remaining part of the season. So
yeah, for me, it's that time of year for me, and so
ready for Bears football, huh?
No, well, yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, although we can get into that some other time.
Yeah.
The way this team is criminally mismanaged is a joke.
They're more worried about moving stadiums than they are about playing good football right now.
Well, yeah, but a healthy organization can do both.
Yep.
They could, but they won't.
No, they won't. That's
the
right.
The Cubs, gentlemen. The Cubs. We'll get to that.
Yeah, I know. No, I mean, I've got other things going on, and I'm busy enough, and so I can't watch a game during the day, right? Am I going to take time out at night to watch a game? I got other things that are a higher priority right now. It's fun reading about them, but I'm not getting too attached to the guys who are playing for the major league team right now, because I know that at best they're a bridge. Now, they can be a useful bridge, right? If Schwindel and Rivas can save the Cubs some money in a platoon at first base, if Ortega or Hermosillo can prove useful in the outfield, so that they can spend money on their rotation, they can spend money in the outfield. Because remember, we talked about this before. I think they've got like $24 million or $44 million in commitments going into the offseason. That's it. Let's say that they add in some money through arbitration. You're probably still looking at what, 50, 55 million, maybe. That's a lot of money to splash around.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this free agent market doesn't look the same as it did 2 years ago, but still, if they want to, they can really make some noise in the free agent market.
Well, the shortstop market's the one that's going to be, I think, ripe, even with Lindor off the books. And I think a lot of teams are like, "Oh boy, thank God he's locked up." Because
but you know what? I don't know that the Cubs are going to play in that end of the pool unless they're looking for a short, like 3 or 4. They just have too many shortstop prospects right now in their system for one of them to not hit.
Hey, the Cardinals might have DeYoung available.
The last thing you want to do is block a promising young position player, because what happens to you is what happened to the Cubs with Jason Hayward. Right?
Yeah.
They've had guys who potentially could have played in the outfield, and they haven't been able to do anything with them because they have to play Hayward, because he's probably still the best defensive outfielder they have in their system. And that at least justifies putting him out there, because they don't have anybody who's better than him with the bat and good enough in the outfield to justify sitting him. And similarly, they don't have anybody who's better than him with a glove to justify sitting him. So they're stuck, right? And ultimately that's block guys who might have had an earlier chance. Hermosillo undoubtedly would have gotten a lot more playing time if they didn't have to, they didn't have to put Jason Hayward out there. And I think that they're going to avoid that mistake again. I don't think you're going to see them signing anybody this offseason, but particularly a shortstop to a 7.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I just know that's the one position where there's a significant amount of free agent talent that could be available. And it'll be enticing to some teams, but I think to your point, Pete, your team's got to be set up with a window coming up here in order for you to spend some money on it is a premium position, but unless you're going
if they can go into the offseason knowing that, or feeling confident that Patrick Wisdom is going to play a passable third base, and by that I mean that his defense and his power is going to make up for the huge hole in the top of his strikeouts, right? And similarly, that Schwindel and Rivas are gonna provide enough value between the two of them at first base that they can spend money elsewhere to bridge them until their young talent gets to the majors. Then they're set up. But if they don't feel confident in that, then next year is going to be painful.
Yeah, that's a slippery slope sometimes when you see a player like a Wisdom, and we're seeing one in Edmundo Sosa, who's done a great job. And he's actually been a spark
when he's
plug.
Not throwing baseballs at umpires' heads.
Oh my God, that's and not even a side story. So a little league game I saw last week, similar play. I can't remember if it was short or third. The kid hit the umpire, and the umpire saw it at the last second, so it didn't hit him in the face, but hit him in the back of the neck. Just like, and this is a kid that, hey, look, I mean, 10, 11-year-olds only throw so hard, but still, it's a hard baseball. And when you see it at the very last second, it drills you. It reminded me of that. That actually happened before the Sosa play. But his point was, you were kind of seeing something with Edmundo Sosa. I think that's your point on Patrick Wisdom. Like, hey, look, he's had a good run, made the most of his opportunity, but is really somebody you think is going to be there for a full season? Do you want them as a starter at a position for a full season, or are they going to get exposed over time? He's one of those candidates. I think Sosa's another one. We've, to an extent, Derrick, we've seen it with Tommy Edman too, where we were warned about this. Like, he's a platoon player. He's probably a guy you're not going to want to run out there every day because of the bat. And for a while there this season, I thought, shit, those people were right. Where, these guys have talent, but they're very much role players on team. And when you start counting on them to be cornerstones of a team, that's when things fall apart, a la Matt Carpenter. And so, but the Cubs, what Pete? What's their window here? Is it 4 years away? Is it 3 years away? Like, what is it, you guys? I mean, what's the Cubs window? That's probably going to tell you what they do in the offseason. If they can lock a guy up on a 8-year deal, a big name free agent, their window has to fall into that, right?
Well, who knows if I mean, Brendan Davis is clearly going to be in the majors within the next 12 months. The way that he has just skyrocketed up the system and has I mean, all of his at-bats at AA were against pitchers who were older than him. He's only 21 years old, and he just got called up to AAA. So the kid is clearly going to be a star. And I
love it when Pete declares. Go ahead.
No, it's not me. It's everybody.
No, you put it out there in the universe.
Okay, I will.
You just did.
I'll own it like Elliott owns, what was it, 15 games
home runs
leading off.
Yeah.
No, I'll own it. Brendan Davis, I think, is going to be a star. He's shown everything that you want to see in his development over the last 4 years. But so he's the opening of the window, but he's not, I mean, I think it's probably at least 2 years before you see the rest of the minor leagues start to pay off. And that's if other guys can prove to be quick movers. So next year could be painful. The year after that, a little bit less. But if everything works out, 2023 may be the 2015 again for the Cubs, where we're expecting 2024 to be the year. And if everything breaks right, 2023 could be a nice surprise.
Yeah. Speaking of putting shit out there in the universe, I learned that lesson today. I said I was going to be done with my part in a big company-wide thing. I'm going to be done with this in 5 minutes. My boss looked at me and said, "You never put that stuff out there in the universe, because now it's going to be an hour." It wasn't quite an hour, but it was a lot longer than 5 minutes. So she was right again, and I failed to listen again. But a little bit more on baseball here. I don't have this clip queued up. And Derrick, you've heard it before already. It was an interesting night this week. Normally, I probably have watched maybe 4 or 5 innings with my wife this year, where we've had baseball on at the same time at home. And so I don't know if I've got the right one. She didn't know I had my phone on, just listening to her. She was a runaway she was a furnace blaster over there in her chair, watching the Cardinals play. Edmonds was getting on her nerves. She cannot stand him on TV. It was just one thing after another. So I tried listening to as much as I could, and I don't know if this is queued up right, but this is, I believe, her commenting. I might have to scroll through a couple of these, but I believe this is her commenting on Harrison Bader.
Oh, what should we call him?
Oh.
Holy, cut your hair.
Line 3-0, you might put him on. You got a base open and then set up the potential double play. 3-0.
Who's inside?
not that one.
Harrison Bader is like hot, but like, what the hell? The ringlets. Like, my 5-year-old doesn't even look like that. Obviously, she's a cave fucking woman, but. Ringlets. Like, shave your fucking head. What is that? That's the most disgusting haircut I've seen in a man for my entire life. And I'm fucking 40.
Gold.
Ron, what disturbs you more or what caught your ear more while you were watching the game? Was it her disgust at his ringlets or the fact that she said Harrison Bader's hot?
No, I look, she can get in line behind every other middle-aged woman, cougar, whatever you want to label them. They all like Harrison Bader for some reason, but she is not a fan of the hair, clearly. And so I put that out on Twitter. I know a lot of people saw that one. She may or may not know I have it out there at this point.
My wife actually overheard it and heard me giggling in the other room. She says, what is that? What's so funny? And I said, you got to watch this. This is Ron's wife.
I know.
She didn't know that he was recording her.
All I have is feet in the picture.
Yeah, just feet. And I was like, but it's Ron's wife. And she's not. And she goes,
with a glass of wine on the table.
Yeah, she's like, what is she talking about? There's nothing wrong with his hair. His hair is beautiful. Yeah. And I'm just like, okay.
So, Ron, have you been served the divorce papers yet, or are you just sleeping on the couch?
No, and so I've spent a couple days feeling uncomfortable, and another uncomfortable thing can be and stressful can be buying a vehicle. We don't know what it is. So 5th Street Motors, located in Pacific, Missouri, will help you find the vehicle you need no matter what brand. 5th Street Motors believes in giving you the best price on a pre-owned vehicle that will fit your budget. Give Brandon or Don a call today at 573-259-1306 and tell them Gateway City Sports sent you. Derrick, we brought you on for a reason. When I first met you know, every conversation would somehow funnel into a football conversation. And it would funnel into the Rams relocation. And when I got to admit, the first couple conversations, I'm like, Jesus Christ, this guy's wearing a tinfoil hat about this big conspiracy theory. He talks to me about it all the time. But God damn it, years later, like everything you had talked to me about is actually playing out in reality, and everything you had said is factual. So my apologies. I thought, man, who is this guy who's got this big rabbi beard? He talks to me all the time about football and this relocation, and St. Louis is going to slap him with a lawsuit. The NFL's bent over a barrel. I'm like, when does the NFL ever get bent over a barrel? God damn it, you were right. I've known it for a couple of years. You're right now. But it just gets reinforced every time information leaks. The more and more people talk about it. And the funny thing is, big time pseudo even media folk around St. Louis they're not necessarily taking credit for what you have been following the whole time and actually writing about and putting out there. They're acting like it's all new. But this is the stuff you were talking to me about on the phone that I didn't know. But it is true. And I listened to you talk to Howard Balzer just a couple months ago. I was behind the scenes on that one where you guys were like, hey, we said this a couple years ago. I'm like, fuck, he was right. I thought he was nuts. He's right.
I've said it back since 2015.
So, Derrick, for those of us who don't care about St. Louis because it's boring, quick synopsis, bring us up to speed.
Yeah.
I mean,
level set.
Lawsuit, but what's
the
the story? What happened? That you can take off the tinfoil hat and put it on all the rest of us.
I was imagining I don't think he ever had one on, but I was imagining he had one on.
Here's the thing, and this goes to everybody out there, and this is, usually I'm pretty animated. I'm crazy. I try to make it entertaining, but this is really me here. This is the seriousness of it. I was berated. I was cut down. I was laughed at, pointed at. You're an idiot. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. You're crazy. You're nuts. Tinfoil hat. You're bonkers. There's no way this is going on. There's no way that these owners are doing this. You're crazy. You're nuts. You're just it's spilled milk. It's spoiled milk. It's your bad bag of beans, whatever you want to call it, because you're pissed off because you lost your team. Listen, I've lost 3 teams, and people want to sit there and say, well, no, how have you lost 3 teams? We got screwed out of the expansion team in '93. We got flat fucking screwed. by the
and
NFL.
tell everybody who you're talking about, Derrick. They probably don't know. Would have been the St. Louis Stallions, correct?
It was the St. Louis Stallions. I've got two hats sitting up here. My dad worked for the company that had the licensing from Logo 7 and all the other ones to make the apparel. They're literally sitting there at the 11th hour. They get the phone call, don't make the stuff, we're not getting the team. Now, it's funny, as a younger person at that time that still loved football, loved the game.
Pete wasn't. But yeah, we were.
And to kind of go through that period at that time, I'd already lost the Cardinals in '88. By moving to Phoenix. That was not our fault as fans. That was not, it just didn't work. There were so many different issues that were there. I've talked about it ad nauseum, but that's what got us to the expansion issue. And now they build a $300 million, almost nearly $300 million publicly funded stadium in now the defunct Dome at America Center, sitting in downtown St. Louis, that albatross of a stadium, glorified warehouse that sits down there and does nothing now to lure the NFL to say, hey, pretty please give us an expansion franchise. The fact of the matter is, going back to 1993, Jerry Clinton was the one that owned the Dome lease. He was the one that owned the lease on the Dome. He was the one that was going to be the principal owner of the Stallions with some other minority owners at that time. Walter Payton was involved and in that iteration at that time. The problem is that the NFL, the cronies, and the gangster-like mobsters in the NFL wanted to have Stan Kroenke and his money in the NFL, and they were doing everything they could to insert him into this situation. They created and manufactured a situation where they had dueling parties fighting over the right for this to occur, for this to happen. And what ended up happening is the NFL steps in and says, oh, no, we're trying to play peacemaker here. Bullshit. The NFL fucking created it. They created that monster intentionally in order to get Stan Kroenke inserted at that point in time. Rotten bastard that he is. But it goes on and on and on, and seeing all of these instances where the NFL stuck their big, fat, janky-ass noses into problems and situations they did not have any business being involved in. They motherfuck, and I'm just going to be straight out real about this. St. Louis, out of a franchise, an expansion franchise for that matter, and then turn around and go, you guys get your stuff straight, come back to us. Wow. I mean, by the way, we're saddled with a nearly $300 million stadium.
Well, and Derrick, for those that don't know, the expansion team was given to Jacksonville. It was given to Jacksonville immediately following, which, by the way, the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars at that time was a St. Louisan. So just throwing that little tidbit of information out there. Right? No, it was, who was it? Gosh, I cannot think of his name. I wrote an article on it here a little while back. I think it was labeled Top 5 Cities for Expansion. I did a little bit of history of the NFL expansion on that, and I talked a little bit about it, but he was. Well, doesn't Kahn own the Jacksonville Jaguars at this point, or is it somebody else? Yeah, he does at this point. Yes. Okay, so he wasn't the guy that originally. Okay. Well, don't trust me. We're going to get to Shad Khan. We'll get there in a minute. So, but Pete and Elliott know Shad Khan. He's an Illinois native. He's cut his teeth, multi-billionaire in auto parts. So that's how he's made his money. But we'll get to him. Going further down that pathway, and there's a million other different things. You guys could go and read the articles over on gatewaycitysports.com. Just look me up as an author and you'll find all the articles. They're there. And going forward, the Rams, and I want to make this vehemently clear to all the Rams homers that are out there in LA that may or may not be listening to this. They probably don't give two shits about a bunch of jerk offs like us sitting here talking about Cubs and Cardinals baseball 90% of the time or whatever. Or but Star Wars. If you are listening to this, 99% of people don't care. 98-ish. But those people that are listening to that and they want to pad the Rams. They want to fluff the Rams. Okay, go ahead, fluff all you want, big boy, because it's only going to get so big. But I'm telling you right now, those people that continue to do that, and they say St. Louis stole the Rams from us, and Georgia Frontier's a witch, and all this other stuff. Listen,
Georgia Frontier didn't want to be in St. Louis just as much as anybody else did. She didn't have any other choice. She didn't have no place to go. And St. Louis was too GD stupid to pull their head out of their own ass and actually play ball with this team. They had an opportunity to land the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They had other opportunities.
Oh, we could have had a Brady Super Bowl. Are you saying we could have had a Brady Super Bowl last year?
Yeah,
oh,
absolutely.
Man.
Yeah, well, actually, that's not.
I don't know if you can do a Buccaneer thing out of Florida though. Like, could you do a name like that in the Midwest? I don't think you could.
TB.
I guess
are you kidding? You've got the Los Angeles Lakers and the Utah Jazz.
Well, and you're right, Pete. To your point, you do have the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are I don't know how many Pirates have made their way into Pennsylvania over the years, but yes,
they've always been the Pirates.
Well, okay.
I don't know what to do with you two.
Are there Bears in Illinois?
That's a good question. There probably
the
was
Cardinals
back
are the
when
state
Lincoln used to live there.
That's right.
At one point in time,
he wasn't born there.
Anyway,
he was born in Kentucky, so he was a Reds fan when he was born.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Definitely a Reds fan. Well,
unfortunately, he couldn't watch the games because of blackout rules.
Yeah, blackout rules. Yeah.
How would they have done that in the 1800s? That'll be a different show.
Did they have satellite back then?
No, they just blocked. They blocked the newspapers from reporting box scores those days.
That's right.
They say they didn't, but come on, you've seen Ancient Aliens.
That's
right.
They
had satellites.
That's right.
So basically, to kind of to further out the story and the kind of, like I said, the tinfoil hat portion of this is where it gets spooky. Is that okay? Yeah, they screwed St. Louis. Well, you can't say the NFL did anything to St. Louis with the Cardinals in '88. So let's just forget about that. That's a wash. That Stallions deal was a rotten ass deal. It was bad from the beginning. It was rotten from the beginning. The NFL trying to insert Stan Kroenke into the process.
So how did they? I'm trying to understand how Stan Kroenke was inserted in the process in '93, though, Derrick. Is it because he was a minority owner on the Rams at that point?
He was highly suggested by the powers that be in the NFL. This is who we'll accept. Because they still had to get approved.
But how he got control of the Rams was Georgia Frontier passed away, right? And he had the first right of refusal to buy that team. Is that?
Yes. We're going to get to that right now.
Okay.
So we get past all of the expansion stuff. We get to the Rams stuff. Georgia Frontier really didn't want to be in St. Louis. She really wanted to be in Baltimore. And this is where this all gets crazy.
It's a domino effect. So you got the whole Browns thing.
This is where it gets bonkers. So the owner of the Cleveland Browns at that time, Art Modell, had his knickers in such a bunch that he needed to get out of Cleveland and get to Baltimore before Georgia Frontier could get there and cash in, that he did not do his due diligence, as we know in business you're supposed to do. And he decided, I'm just going to run and take my Browns and just jump out of here because I can, and I'm going to run to Baltimore, and I'm going to sign a lease, and I'm going to go in over there. Guess what? The NFL said, oh, no, Cleveland's a big market. We don't want to lose that. Plus, you can't move. Cleveland sued. There was a whole bunch of litigation that came from it, and he tried to leave. He tried to go back to Cleveland, and Baltimore went, this is what we got here, this piece of paper? We got your ass dead to rights. You try to leave, we're going to sue you way worse than what Cleveland did. It ain't going to happen. Your ass is grass. You're staying here. But that's when the NFL stepped in and filtered a settlement between the Browns and the Ravens, which was the Browns, to say, Browns, you're going to get your team back in 1999 when they came back.
And they got the retained, like just to level celebrate. They got the retain the records and everything. Yeah.
Came right back. It's just like they took a 3-year hiatus. They came right back. That's domino one. Georgia Frontier then had the door slammed shut in her face. She couldn't go back to Anaheim. That shit wasn't happening.
And she sure wasn't going to Cleveland at that point.
No, she was losing her ass. She couldn't go anywhere. She was done. And she was losing money, hemorrhaging money left and right. And she had to pay $30 million to get out of the lease in Anaheim anyway to begin with, even if she wanted to leave.
Now, remind me, Derrick, where did the Rams play when they were in LA? Was it the LA Coliseum where eventually the Raiders played?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So So they left there for a reason in the first place, and it wasn't a profitable venture for them.
Correct. Well, they couldn't get fans and seats.
A shithole.
Well, yeah, exactly. It is a shithole. It still is a shithole. But
that's why they don't play football there anymore.
Exactly. And the reason is because we're talking about 1993, 1994. We're talking the early 90s here. This is before the internet really took off. This is before streaming. This is before teams made their money on game day ticket sales, concessions, parking. That's where they made their money.
Yeah.
And if a team could not sell and they could not put asses in seats, they did not make money, and they lost big time.
Which is incredible in a market like that. I mean, it really is. You can see how it could happen, right? I mean, for years, guys, we've seen the Dodgers. Yeah, they have high attendance, but notoriously, right, those seats aren't filled until like the third inning, and then they're empty by inning 8. It's, I guess until the most recent era where they've won that division, like feels like 15 years in a row now. I guess they took a break in the odd years in the early part of the decade where they let the Giants win every other year. But it's LA is a tough market. And like population you look at there is massive, and you think that just by default you would fill a stadium every night with enough interested people, but the Rams could not. Like, football has not worked like everybody thought it would there.
It hasn't, and it's still, maybe it does. The Rams have had some success because they've been winning. Oh, go figure. For the last umpteen years they were in St. Louis, they couldn't draw horse shit, for wins. They couldn't do anything. They were lucky. What was it, 7-9, 8-1? It was just ridiculous.
They weren't trying to win there.
No,
it's
they
very
weren't.
clear.
And it's actually come out in court documents here in St. Louis that they intentionally poisoned the well, that they intentionally lost, that they intentionally done all these things. And this is just shit that's been leaked recently. Okay, think about this.
You know what? And the good news about that is that the Cubs ownership would never be able to pull that shit off in the north side, because I don't care what they run out there. Those bleachers are going to be filled. That stadium is going to be filled because of the Wrigleyville, the whole experience and everything down there. They wouldn't be able to drive fans out of there.
Have you not seen the highlights lately?
Yeah.
That stadium is not full.
It's not.
Oh, it's not.
No, you want to go see a game tomorrow? We can get tickets.
We can go.
Really? Okay. Wow. I've been forward. And you know what, guys?
Pay face value for them too.
Yeah. You know what? As much shit as I gave the Cardinals earlier this year because of everything else, I'm like, the team is uninteresting. People aren't there, but I've seen them on the road, like just watching condensed games and things. And in stadiums you would think would have a decent amount of fans, and I'm looking up and like, holy shit, this is. I've been in my silo, and this is clearly a league-wide problem. Maybe not in some markets, but I think for most of them it has been. I mean, I've seen.
I went to the Cubs game 3 weeks ago. Sat in the bleachers. Nobody around me at all was able to go to the bathroom. In, out, no lines, no waiting.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
in out of the bathroom because of the troughs. They're much more efficient.
That's true. And I dove.
Did you slalom? You only slalomed in your own piss?
Dove in once.
Okay. And here's how. Hey, and guys, here's how we can bring it back to Derrick. So the Bears were the Decatur Staleys. George Halas bought them, moved them to Chicago, changed the name because they were playing in Wrigley Field. And at the time, football teams would name themselves after their baseball stadium hosts in the hopes that the fans of the baseball team would follow the football team. However, he decided that he didn't want to be the Cubs because the football players were bigger than the baseball players, hence Chicago Bears. Back to you, Derrick.
That's what I got to say about that.
I did not know that.
Yep.
Well, it is funny because another little interesting anecdote, the Cardinals were originally in Chicago, the Chicago Cardinals, football Cardinals. And once that happened and the Bears started becoming more and more popular because of their affiliation with the baseball Cubs, that's when the Cardinals decided it's probably time we move on down to St. Louis. And that's how that had all become a part of history.
Okay, so then let's go one step further. So when they first started out, well, for the majority of their early history, the Cubs were the Chicago White Stockings. And then when they started, in 1900, they abandoned the name. And
I can't imagine why.
They were alternately known as the Caps for Cap Anson. And then when Anson left and retired, they became known as the Orphans because they had lost their father figure who had led the team for so many years. And eventually Orphans morphed into cubs because an orphan is a young child, a cub is a young, and so then from cubs, they developed into baby bears. There you go.
Well, there's an interesting anecdote if I ever heard one.
This is
And
well,
when the AL started in 1901, the Chicago White Sox owner, Charlie Comiskey, never one to miss an opportunity to market, said, we're taking the name the White Stockings.
We're bringing back the White Stockings. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And nobody, he didn't fool anybody in 1901, and they're still named the same name.
Jesus, this has been the most educational show we've actually ever done.
It
in
has.
our 6-year history. Yes.
So Derrick, tell us, I know there's a lawsuit. What is, what's the material thing that's going to win the lawsuit and bring St. Louis a football team? Because it seems to me that given the monopoly power that football has, that the NFL has, how can they be forced to put a team in a city?
How you compel the NFL is threatening them. Well, let's say this. Anytime that you're in any kind of a legal interaction of some kind, and it gets to this stage to where you literally have no other recourse except to settle or go to court. That's your two options. There's no highway option here. There's no more appeals. There's no more filings. There's nothing. What's the one thing that scares the NFL more than anything?
Losing their antitrust exemption.
Well, antitrust is a big one, but it's this. They do not want anybody knowing how they deal in the dark. Because if people knew half the shit I know, they would roll over in their graves if they were already dead.
And all of that stuff would be made public during the discovery
Absolutely.
process.
It's legal in the court of law, but we're afforded those rights as United States citizens to be able to see that information unless it was requested to be filed under seal and was granted by a judge to begin with. But in this type of case, ain't gonna fly. So in this situation, how do you compel the NFL, whose multi-billion-dollar owners, which, by the way, more and more by the day, looks like Jeff Bezos is going to be involved as an owner, probably as the owner of the Denver Broncos at some point. But how do you compel these multi-billion-dollar owners to say, oh, hey, we're going to settle with you. We're going to give you something. We're going to make this go away. It would have to be something so damning, so terrible, so awful, so egregious that if the general public ever saw it, heard it, read it, it would destroy the fabric of the NFL as we know it. It would, and what I mean by that is not like it's going to run fans away, but what it's going to do is destroy the NFL's ability to negotiate with cities, municipalities, counties, states, and try to bleed them of hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, and bilk citizens out of tax money in order to keep a team in a city, keep a team in a municipality. That's really where they're going with this. This is in its key root fraud. This has nothing to do with the lease. That's the constant argument that gets talked about with the Rams homers in LA. It's about the lease. But they had the right to leave. Nobody is disputing that the Rams had a right to leave. Nobody's saying that they didn't. We're all in agreement here that the Rams had the right to leave. It's not that they left. It's how they did it. Kevin Demoff, Stan Kroenke, even Kevin Demoff sending emails to Roger Goodell before the Super Bowl that year, telling him what to say, telling him to lie. They knew the truth. In 2010, and I talked about this with Howard Balzer. If anybody wants to go back and check that interview out, it's over on Gateway City Sports. The one thing Howard Balzer had told me was this. Behind a closed-door session in 2010, when Stan Kroenke was confirmed the official 100% owner of the Rams in 2010, he said, and I quote, LA, baby. So you're telling me that in 2010, this cocksucker knew in that period of time that he was going to move this team? So not only did he bilk and defraud the fans of St. Louis, saying, I'm a Missouri guy, and you know I could be trusted, and I've been here all of my life, and I've worked hard to bring football.
Quick question: Is that how he talks? I've actually never heard the guy talk.
This is how he talks. So I led the charge of football into St. Louis, and I'm not going to lead the charge out of St. Louis. It was horse shit. And, you know, I go back to that movie, The Greasy Strangler, which is just a crazy, wild, just bizarre movie. But they sit there and they argue with one another. Horseshit artist, and they just yell at each other back and forth. That's what this is. He's a horseshit artist. He's a liar. He's a con. He's a fiend. And now, and this is, I think, the root of what a lot of people are frustrated with, is that these owners don't answer to anybody for anything. That's it. Full stop. And if people don't like it, well, then tough toenails, tough cookies. It doesn't matter, because this is going to be the only opportunity, by going to court, to have these billionaires have to check their crown and their scepter and their cape at the door, and actually have to sit down and be treated like a normal everyday person that walks in off the street. That money, all of that stuff they're afforded in life outside of those doors goes away. That shield that protects you, it's gone. Now you have to answer the real questions.
And so Derrick, some of the facts that have come out, right? Like they were, Kroenke has fought turning over his financial information, right? Like he doesn't want to. And the reason you're asked to do that is because you could be, could be up for, I don't know what the term is here, it's escaping me, but he could be liable. And so they want to know punitive damages, what's he worth? And it's up to, I think an example could be made, by to NFL owners, what it could cost you if you basically participate in like deception like this. This is what it's going to cost you. And so I know he's fighting turning over his financial information. I don't think he would do that if he knew he was at serious risk. And so,
well, he blames it on the fact that, because him and his wife are married and she's a Walton, he blames it on that. And he says, I had to turn over Ann Walton, my wife's, I have to turn over her financial stuff because we filed jointly with the IRS. So therefore that all of her financial information is going to be privy to those eyes too as well. And that's malarkey. It's just absolute. Yeah. It's just not true.
He's one of the richest people in the world. What's the big freaking deal?
Well, part of that, Elliot, is you marry a Walton kid, like you kind of just like trip and fall into it. I mean, I'm not saying he didn't have his own wealth to begin with, but when you marry a Walton kid, whatever you had has probably been amplified. Quite a bit.
Exactly. Yeah. And it gets worse and worse by the day, by just going through some of the court documents, which I have all of them. I put them up over on Gateway City Sports in my latest article that I put up.
Which, by the way, Derrick, what's amazing is all this stuff is public. Like you were able to have access to it.
And all of it's public. And
it's being slapped out there on Twitter now.
Yeah.
And like, hey, look what's been revealed. And I'll give Ben Frederick some credit. Like he's at least said, hey, for those who have followed this for a long time, this isn't new to you. But for those who haven't, because this hasn't been nationwide news, here you go. Here are statements from meetings and memos and stuff passed back and forth between the NFL, Roger Goodell, and ownership. Here's what these guys have been saying to each other years before the move.
So, Derrick, let me ask you something. Because basically your contention is that the NFL isn't afraid of losing a lawsuit. It sounds like if this actually went to court, the NFL in all likelihood would win, but they just want to make this go away. And so they're going to look to settle. So then my question is, if all this is publicly available, why hasn't anybody else started pulling at these strings? Because, and to that extent, I mean, if anybody did start pulling at these strings, it would seem to me that it would just stiffen the NFL spine and say, you know what, this is already out there. We might as well go to trial and win the trial.
You know, Pete, I absolutely love that question. Thank you for asking it, because I'm going to tell you why. The NFL is actually in this. There's no Sherlock that they're going to win a lawsuit if it goes to court. We don't know what information they have. We absolutely don't know. This is a coin flip. It's literally a 50-50. It could go either way. I mean, from the things I've seen, it's pretty damning. It's pretty bad against the NFL and pro St. Louis. Now, that being said, when it comes to what is being reported out there, the problem is that everybody's in bed with the NFL. Fox, CBS, ESPN, so on and so forth. NFL Network is owned by the NFL. Do you honestly think anybody is going to report on this? No. Because why? If you're a dog and you have an owner that feeds you every single day, are you going to bite the owner's hand? No, you're not.
Yeah. So no, I think that's very clear. Derrick, you've been saying that for years. Like you and Palmer both have been saying, look, the mainstream media is going to be reluctant to do it because of the relationships with the NFL. So that's why it hasn't been reported on nationally. But I think
Exhibit A on that is ESPN's behavior when it comes to the NFL.
Yeah.
They never report on the dark side of anything.
Yeah, and it is. But I think back to your question, Pete, it's like, Derrick, if this goes to court, to your point, it's a 50-50 thing. I mean, the evidence might be damning, but a judge or jury might not see it the same way. But there might be a reason why the NFL doesn't want to drag this out this long. So a potential lawsuit or a settlement, more so the settlement, I think, which I've heard you and a lot of people say is likely to happen. It's likely to settle and not actually go to court. What might that settlement mean for the city? Does it mean expansion? Does it mean, you know what? We don't want to deal with the NFL. We don't want an expansion. Just pay off the dome. Give us $1 billion and get the hell out of here. We don't want to see you anymore. Like, what do you think? I mean, in your opinion, just your gut feel, and I know it could go in any direction, and we can all speculate about this all night long, but what do you think is likely to occur?
My gut feeling says that they want this to go to court. That's my gut feeling.
The NFL?
No, the St. Louis Law team.
Oh, sure,
that they won't even take a settlement no matter what's offered. That's my gut feeling, is that this thing goes to court at this point. I've always said, hey, settlement, because that's typically how lawyers operate on a majority of the time. Hey, I really don't want to have to litigate in court. I really don't want to have to
and
do
that's
that.
been a precedent with the Browns and everything else, right? With Cleveland.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the NFL has history in that subject matter of settling out of court long before. Now, when it comes to St. Louis, I think that if you're talking settlement, any settlement that would be offered would have to be offered along with an apology to the city of St. Louis, the fans, and say, we did you wrong, we did you dirty, and we are sorry for that, and we're going to fix it, and we're going to make it right.
That's the problem, man.
Is that going to
think
happen? Yeah, the reality is probably highly unlikely.
I can see millions of dollars being thrown at them, no problem, Pete. Even the promise that, hey, next round of expansion, you guys are first up.
You guys have a team. Yep.
Yeah, but I never
that's kind of where I see
ever
logically.
I mean, that's the equivalent to them actually going to court and having everything exposed. If they apologize, if they're willing to apologize, they might as well go to court.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that they're never
because if they go to court, they can still claim that they didn't do anything wrong. It was one, they get to appeal. And two, they can say, look, we didn't do anything wrong. This was something that was decided by a jury. We don't agree with what they decided, but we're going to abide by the court's ruling. We're going to go ahead. We're going to pay the $1 billion and we're going to make them go away. But what they don't have to do, even if they lose a lawsuit, is say, I'm sorry. And we know that the NFL does not say, I'm sorry.
No, they don't.
That's why
they don't say sorry for concussions. They don't say sorry for anything. Like that's just not their.
That's not their MO. That's not what they do. And so, realistically speaking, I mean, my head tells me that this gets settled, and I think that it gets settled for. It's either going to be one of two things. It's either going to be settled for, and this is based off of what I've been told from the inside. It either gets settled for pay off the dome, give back the former Rams practice facilities at Earth City, which Kroenke reserves the right to purchase for $1, I believe, next year, if I'm not mistaken.
It's like church rates. It's like a college campus donating church land to a church for $1.
Well, and the whole idea of that was if he stayed, that's what was going to kind of entice him to stay. But we all know that's not the truth. But
Seriously,
so
the church we have, the church we go to, like they pay a $1 lease every year to Davidson College.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And so pay off the dome, the former dome for them, the former home for them, and the practice facilities, give them back, and then pay back the $15-16 million of fees that they had accrued trying to create this new stadium, the National Car Rental Field, whatever they were going to call it, in downtown St. Louis at the riverfront, and pay all of that back. That's a start. That's not what it's going to be. That's a start. And then I think the other plausible leg of that is we want an expansion team 100% for free, because a fee is just a fee. It's created. It's pixie dust. It doesn't exist.
Local owner.
Here's the thing. Do we have to have an owner? Why can't it be like Green Bay? Why can't it be publicly owned? Why is that not an option?
You're on mute, Pete. Come on, take yourself off.
Yeah, I know. Green Bay does have an owner. They have the community has no say in what the team does.
Yeah, they do from the big not the fans, not the general.
Can you imagine if the Cardinals were publicly owned right now?
Oh, could you imagine the anarchy? There'd be bedlam in the streets.
Like you'd have people with their ticket. I am an owner of one share of this goddamn franchise, and Mo owes me an explanation.
There's a possibility, and albeit an outside possibility, that could happen, but you do have to find a potential owner who's going to be in that market. Who's there? I don't know. There's a handful of options, yes, but you still have to do that. And I think the final piece, the big piece that has to be, NFL, you're going to build us a brand new $1.5 billion stadium. It's going to have to be built in the county. It cannot be built in the city. I think that's what's going to end up having to happen. And I think this is one option. The other option is probably $1.5 to $2 billion. And I think that's probably was what they would want for a settlement if you're talking cash is concerned. That being said, do any of us trust any of our home cities with that kind of money?
No, hell no.
No, because what's it going to do? It's just going to end up in some politician's slush fund somewhere.
Well,
they're going to waste it on some.
It's going to be spent on some kind of
nowhere.
yeah, right, exactly. Like we don't trust our local government to spend $1 billion. I mean, shit. Especially St. Louis, probably more so than Chicago. Chicago has probably spent funds like that more wisely than St. Louis, who did a trolley that goes nowhere.
Well, and also the lawyers, if I'm not mistaken, they do get 30 to 35% of the winnings.
Oh,
so
my God.
File that away for consideration for a moment.
Pete, you picked the wrong profession. I could see you being a sports lawyer. What the fuck were you doing? That you're a theater guy. I get it. But theater and being a lawyer, I could see a kind of a synergy there with your education. Why did you not go to law school? Why did you get your MBA? You should have got your degree. And you
I like to argue with people. I
should have went to law school, man. When I knew you, I should have just slapped you in the face that you should be a lawyer. You just have it written all over you. Like you look like Derrick would be talking on the NFL Network to an NFL attorney right now. That's what you look like to me.
Fair enough. Just to kind of close.
Are you just dumbfounded by a set, or you just don't know what to? I'm talking to Pete. Like I just shot at him. I'm like, he looks like he could be a lawyer right now because he's got a collared shirt on and everything. Where we're talking,
he does. I mean, it's just. I think it's more of the. Is it more of the hairdo, or is it?
I think it's more the smirk.
What you mean this?
Well, yeah.
Why would you do? Why? I was talking about the smirk.
Oh, no, I rocked that look for a little while.
I got you beat, Pete. I got you beat.
You do.
I got you beat. Buddy, if I let this grow out, it's a horseshoe, baby. It's gone.
I'm going that way. See, I have the advantage of being 6'5", so most people don't get to see the back here.
You have to have a drone.
Worse.
Yeah, you have to have a drone.
Yeah, that's right.
That works. I could see that.
And in answer to your question, Ron, I did briefly, well, not briefly, for a while, I considered going to law school.
Why didn't you?
Because my friend Lenny is a much better lawyer.
I was going to say, is he still sailing the seas or is he working again?
No. He's working. He's back here in the Chicago area. He's doing quite well for himself. Thank you very much.
Geddes and Associates. I could see it now.
There you go.
I know, right? like
See that
competing with
sign?
Boris, like
Yeah,
neck
just
and neck.
like have the beautiful like brick building on the south side or something like that. Just this gorgeous law firm building. I just see it, Geddes and Associates.
And I would still be his friend, but I'd be like a contractor that did shit on his buildings, like to.
Yeah, absolutely.
No. You'd be the Wilford Brimley character in the firm for me. You'd be doing all my dirty work,
except without the diabetes.
That's right.
Diabetes.
Or the oatmeal.
Or the oatmeal.
No, you get a free if you come visit our firm. You get a free
Quaker
bowl
Oats
of
for a lot
oatmeal
years.
and a cameo on the Ewoks episode.
Oh yeah,
That's true.
Yeah,
I always
Made
remember
for
him from
TV.
Cocoon.
Yeah, same.
So
Well,
that's
yeah.
where I always remember him.
And he was only like what 42 when he shot that. I
And
think.
he looked like he was
still looks the
70.
same.
He played like he doesn't look the same now, Elliot.
Yeah, because
Now he looks like a decomposed body.
Jesus Christ! Why do we go so dark at the end of these shows? It goes very
we
bad.
have to.
I
mean, okay. So I need to get something off my chest.
He looked the
no.
same until the day he died, I felt like.
With the reporting that Pete had brought up, why is it that we're not hearing about this nationally until about now? You know, Mike Florio with Pro Football Talk has talked about it. He's brought it up. Dave Kaplan has now started to talk about it over on The Athletic. There has been a few other people. Chris Sims and Florio talked about it in one of their little video sessions that they had done over on PFT. And also Chris Sims' father, Phil Sims, had talked about it on one of his podcast/radio shows that he had done here just earlier today, if I'm not mistaken.
That's the only safe haven. Those guys can't do that on camera right now. I mean,
exactly.
Plus, it's in court and they can't, right? Like, there's only so much they can.
Like I said, you know, this goes back to that they won't bite the hand that feeds them billions of dollars every single year to be able to put this stuff on. And so when I see the absolute bashing that I took for 5 years nearly, actually right at about 5 years, from fans, from people in the media, from everything else, just trounced and called every name in the book. There's one person I can honestly say that I would never say anything bad about. That's probably Randy Carricker. Randy Carricker, I've had many conversations with the man. He's always been
we've had him on our
we
had him on one of our shows in the past.
Yeah, we had him on one of our shows, and he was absolutely fantastic. And he's salt of the earth kind of guy. Will give you the shirt off his back. That's just the kind of person Randy Carricker is. And I've had conversations with him. I've had conversations with Frank Cusimano and, you know, everybody in St. Louis. I've talked with them all.
But Derrick, this is what's happened, right? Like, St. Louis lost his football team, and nationally, people are going like, "Well, shit, yeah, it's a little shit Midwest town, so who cares? They couldn't support a team.
It's a baseball town. Who gives a shit?"
That's what's in the mentality everywhere outside of the Midwest is that, yeah, it's St. Louis. They love their baseball and hockey, and they don't give a shit about anything else. So, yeah, no wonder an NFL team wanted to move out of there. I'm talking nationally. That's what, you know, in their lens, that's probably what they feel. Like, well, no wonder I can't support a team. I mean, look at what the Rams did from whenever to whenever. They were nothing. You know, they had Sam Bradford. Woo! And that was it. They forget about the years before that and the greatest show on turf, all that stuff. And so it makes sense in their mind that there was nothing to draw fans in. There wasn't the history to draw fans in, the fan base, the generations to draw people in from 2 or 3 hours away to go in and watch football on Sunday.
Not like the Chiefs in Kansas City, where they've been there for decades.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so, you know, from an outside perspective, you can understand why people look at this and go, "St. Louis, you're crying over spilled milk. You're a bunch of babies. You've lost your second NFL team. Like you're not a football market. You're a baseball town. You're a hockey town, and that's it." I understand if you're not following it close, why people think what they think outside of the area. I get it. But the one argument that people will laugh at, but it's very true, the one season the XFL existed in St. Louis. They sold the lower deck outs, the decks out of the dome in the first game, right, Derrick? In the XFL Battlehawks?
Yeah, I think they got close to it. I think they put like close to 20,000 that first
and they
game.
Were opening up the second deck.
They were going to against the LA Wildcats. The LA
When
Wildcats
COVID happened and the league shut down.
COVID played. They were going to open that upper deck. They were going to have 50,000 plus.
Yeah, so there was
XFL game.
For an XFL game, which yes, it's a lesser league. We know this. It's not the NFL. It's unpolished. These guys didn't actually weren't able to practice or do much together until their first game. So it was rough first week, but like St. Louis showed up to support a new professional football team, albeit a lesser league. It was the one statement I think they made that, hey, professional football was back in St. Louis for the first time in several years. The fans showed up, and I think that was a little bit of a gesture that, look, this is a sports town. It really is. Yes, baseball will likely always be king, but there's a lot of room for other sports to thrive in the area. And I think the Battlehawks, the fans showing up to the Battlehawks is a very good gesture to say, hey, we can do this, and we can support a team. There's a lot to play out with this whole lawsuit settlement. It'll be interesting to watch. It'll become more national as it gets closer to either settlement or trial. Likely settlement, I feel. You guys probably feel the same way. Clearly, it sounds like you do, Derrick. Pete, you do. Elliot, would just like to see St. Louis burn.
You know, in all this, if St. Louis can support a hockey team, they sure as hell can support an NFL team.
You would think. And they did, by the way.
Well, they did. And it's just the thing is it's been fabricated by the NFL and the media outlets that support them that was the case. It was completely false. It was not true in the slightest. You look at the history of the team as far as the amount of butts they put on seats and the television. Even look at television now. It's rebounded and has come back, and to where the St. Louis market or the regional market around the area it's beating other markets handily. Watching NFL football today. And so for anybody that says, oh, it's just a baseball town or it can only support hockey and baseball, that's completely not true.
Well,
absolutely.
We'll get our test with MLS starts up in 2023, which I'm excited for.
I'm excited about that. I'm excited to go sit in that beautiful new stadium.
I see the pennant up there.
Enjoy that.
Yeah. And
that's going to be amazing.
Yeah. I'm excited to see that too, now that my kids are way interested in soccer. And Pete, I don't know what your boy plays. Is he exclusive baseball or is he a little bit into soccer? Or
yeah, he's still into baseball, man.
He's still a baseball guy?
And went 2 for 3 in his
good for
first
him.
game
Well,
last
if
week.
he can be your height and get that leverage on there and get that arm.
Does not want to pitch.
Ooh, that's going to be a problem.
That's going to be a problem.
That's going to be a problem. We're going to have to get him over his thing. So you're going to have to bring him out here. You're going to have to bring him out here.
That convert.
You're going to have to bring him out here and just let him pitch live. You're going to have to get over it. He's got the height and leverage.
I know. That's why I keep telling him. Once again, he's the tallest kid on the team. Big shock.
It is a huge shock. So Derrick, thanks for joining us tonight and filling us in a little bit on this.
No
This is a huge story, man. It's got a lot of nuances and layers to peel back. And I know we can't
huge
possibly
implications for the NFL.
It sets a precedent. It really does.
Yeah. And when you got teams like Buffalo, who's threatening to leave Buffalo, which is
they're going
unfathomable.
to, by the way.
Yeah, I know they are.
They're
San Antonio?
No, Austin.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Austin.
They've already been to Jerry Jones. They've already asked for the blessing. They've already asked for.
Oh, Jerry! I like how they have to go to Jerry Jones for the blessing.
Oh, yeah, they have to.
Like that guy can't. I'm sorry.
Kiss the ring, man.
We've never wished this on people, but like, there's some people you just like. You know what? This kind of stuff is gonna have to just die with you, and he's one of them, right? Like,
Once he goes, though, who fills the void? You get what I'm saying? There's always a mob boss. There's always the Dom.
Or the kid. Or the kid who followed in the son's footsteps. Yes, of course. But you know, the way media and public is today, like we have instant access to everything. So, you know, I think the window of pulling that kind of shit is getting shorter and shorter, and it's closing in on people. And so, we'll see what's going to happen with all that. But yeah, Derrick, thanks again for you know, catching us up at least on what's happening with that lawsuit. It is a very real thing. I know people are denying it. And if you're an LA fan, if you're a pure LA Rams fan, and you were before they moved and you are now, I look, no hard feelings against those guys. I understand why they're territorial about it. Like, we got our Rams back. SoFi is a pretty impressive stadium, although they paid about $2 billion over what they thought they were going to do for it.
About $4 billion too much.
Okay, well, fine, $4 billion too much for it, but it is an impressive stadium. The Bears were there last weekend. I unfortunately watched that game, and was reminded in the first Bears drive down the field when oh my God, they're driving downfield. Oh, interception in the end zone. Yes, I was reminded the Bears are the Bears. If St. Louis does pick up an expansion team, that is my one window to switch loyalty. I won't do it, but if they pick up their own natural expansion team, I may have to make the pivot, guys. I may have to do it. Because the Bears are the Bears, and it's just, they're tough to love. They're really, really tough to love. I do anyway, but my God. The only game they lost.
Especially now. Especially right now with the way that they're handling Justin Fields.
And the
it's not the way they're handling Justin Fields. If you look at if you take a step back and you look at the way at the game that I can't even remember his name now, Big Red played, he actually didn't, he had a good game given what was called, given what their game plan was. He
didn't screw up.
No,
so
he didn't play bad enough to lose that game, but they lost.
And so this is not a Justin Fields thing. This is a Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace thing.
Yeah, I agree.
And unfortunately, we are going to be in the exact same spot we were when Ryan Pace was hired. We're going to have a team that's over the cap, has no cap room to rebuild, and is old and is mediocre.
Jesus Christ, it's a cycle. I mean, how
it is.
You never hope ending.
That whoever is next is able to build a team quickly around Justin Fields so that he doesn't leave, or else the cycle is just going to continue.
Yeah, they have not. I mean, while you can look at it and go, well, the Bears have gutted themselves several times. Like, shit, they never really have, man. They've always held on to an expensive part of their team that's kept them from completely going, you know what?
Whether it was a defensive guy.
We're blowing this shit up, and, you know, the fans are going to hate us for 2 or 3 years. And we just, for decades now, guys, we've wanted that to happen. Just please rip it to the studs and do it over. Because
and where they got stuck, right, is exactly where they are now. They had Mitch Trubisky, and they thought he was going to be good, and that's what you want. If you can have
Pete, I thought it happened a couple quarterbacks before that.
But if you can have an impact quarterback on his rookie deal, then you can build an expensive team in other areas, right? Because a quarterback is going to be your most expensive piece on your team, except when he's on his rookie contract. And so that's what they're looking at now. The problem is that now the defense is expensive and old.
Yeah.
At least when they had Trubisky, the defense was expensive, but still in their prime. And now they move past that point. And so it's really a question of how quickly are they going to be able to.
Yeah, you really wonder, should they have done something with Khalil Mack this last offseason? Although I love that he's a Bear. I love that player, but you got to look at it in a cold light and
it's wasted talent.
Yep. Yeah. It really is. And they've done that. But the Bears have done that for decades, right? I mean,
they have done the exact opposite of what the Cubs did this season. They've hung on to their prime players beyond their useful life and have ended up getting nothing for it except a mediocre team.
Yeah, and they've wasted it's tough to say, but you're always heartbroken when you think of a career like Brian Urlacher, who never got there.
Yeah.
God damn it, why?
He got close.
He got close.
One Super Bowl.
You got close.
One Super Bowl. Yep. Him, Lance Briggs, Olin Kreutz. I mean, those guys, Devin Hester, those guys deserved a lot more.
They did. Guys, we've
instead they got Rex.
Sexy Rexy.
Good Rex, bad Rex. Derrick, thanks again for joining us. Pete, it's time.
Yep. First of all, Derrick, that was amazing. Thank you for coming on and joining us again. You better be careful, or we're going to have to kick Elliot out of his permanent occasional guest host spot, and he can be the special guest. If you enjoyed this episode,
I want to make a couple additions before I let Pete roll out. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Pete. I'm sorry to do that. I apologize. But a couple of things. Number one, the Bears, I really got to roll it back. They just really screwed up with Eric Kramer. I mean, it's Eric Kramer. He was the quarterback now.
Wow, you're
Curtis Conway.
You're dialing that clock.
Yeah. Curtis Conway. Let's go back. Curtis Enos. Shall we start naming names?
Oh yeah, Curtis Enos was a
Kyle
flop.
Orton should have started that
Kyle
Super Bowl.
Orton should have had that in the bag. No, it's really the second thing is I want to remind everybody that I've been out of the fantasy football game for several years due to everything that's kind of happened. But I just want to go ahead and throw it out there that I'm in a fantasy football league now with producer Gene, who's bamboozled me into being into 3 different leagues. And I am now 3-0 in those 3 different leagues after the first week. And I warned them, I told them, you're waking a sleeping giant. I am no paper tiger. I'm the real deal. I'm a monster.
It's like when the French
bad.
challenged Lance Armstrong to do one more Tour de France. He's like, "Fuck it, fine, I'll run your ass again."
That's exactly what
steroids or not. I'm doing it.
Finished third.
They realize what kind of a monster that they've unleashed on themselves, and now they have greatly regretted it. I just wanted to mention that. So next week, boys, I'm gonna whoop your ass again. Just throwing that out there.
All right, fair enough, Pete.
Looking forward to it. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your friends to subscribe. We are available on Facebook, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. Be sure to check out the other Gateway City Sports Network podcasts, including, obviously, the Derrick King Sports Show, 2 for 3 with Moose Michaels, Yacker Jacks, XFL, STL, and End the Cards with A-Train Arlington Lane. Derrick, I really like your name. I love the work that you do, but it just doesn't roll like A-Train Arlington Lane. We got to get you a nickname.
Well, I've tried the whole nickname thing, but it just doesn't play out. It just doesn't roll off the tongue with the name Derrick King. What are you going to do? How are you going to work that out? I mean, we already know what we're going to call you, Pete. I mean, we already know. It's
arrogant son of a bitch. I got that one in
arrogant son of a
Minnesota.
bitch. Geddes and Associates. I'm going to get me a sign made that you're going to have to hang up back behind you. That's just going to say Geddes Esquire and Associates or something. I don't know. I'm going to get something made up. I got to now.
There would be nothing that would give me more of a cloud of comfort and a sense of I'm going to win this case than with Pete just storms into the courtroom. I've got him. Like, fuck it. I'm winning. I'm winning.
Pete storms into the
I know he's thought it through, and of course he'll have Lenny like trailing him, like giving him real legal advice.
Except that the name lends itself far too much. We're not going to go with anything as pedestrian as Geddes and Associates. We're going to go with Get Us a Victory. Or maybe Get Us a Settlement.
Like with a dash in there, like Get Us
I mean, there's
victory.
There's a conglomerate just waiting out there, right? We have a travel agency, Get Us Out of Here, right? We have our own airline, get us in the air.
Get us to safety.
That's right. We have our own drug running wing, Get Us High. I mean, we are all set.
Holy crap.
Pete,
I didn't know any of this was going to reveal itself tonight, but I'm glad.
I was trying to. You can, Derrick, where can our audience follow you and find you on all the social medias?
Twitter, Derrick King Sports. Over on Facebook, I'm always in and around the Gateway City Sports. We have 2 Facebook pages, the main page and the fan page. Go ahead and add both. And also Derrick King Sports over on Facebook too as well. That's the main haunts. So go check it out.
And if he's not there, you can find him on Ben Fredrickson's ass. Send us an email at the show at teamarrivalspodcast.com. You can find Elliot on Twitter at
TOR_Elliot.
And you can find Ron at
TOR_Ron75.
I got to tell you, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. I'm glad that I jumped on and got to sit in the waiting room for 15 minutes while Ron pretended that I wasn't there. But I did enjoy the part that I caught. And who knows, guys, let's do another show in, I don't know, 3-4 weeks. Nobody wants to hear from us.
That's right. Once a month is.
I had an inkling that Ron was going to want to do a show tonight because mysteriously he found his love for baseball again now that his team has taken control of the second wild card spot. So I knew you were coming back this week, Ron.
Go fuck yourself. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, very, very true. And I also have to report one thing. So a favorite Facebook group of mine, which was called NL Central Fight Club, was shut down by Facebook. This week. It was.
What did you do, Ron?
It wasn't me at all. I all of a sudden I got an invite from one of the admins who I knew, and it was to this new group called Midwest Central Fight Club, and it's about. And I'm like, what the hell is this? You know, what the cinnamon toast fuck is going on here? And I look, and the old page got shut down because of all the shit talking got so severe that they shut it down. Somebody reported it, and Facebook went in, and did their thing. And it was supposed to be a trash talk group that was like, look, if you don't have thick skin, just don't join, because we talk some serious shit around here. Very fun group, but Midwest Central Fight Club is the new location. They've just started it up today. I got the invite. So please, if you follow us and you have a sense of humor, and that's a key, you've got to have a sense of humor. Like, don't.
Shit, if you can't have a backbone around us porch.
Don't.
Tell me, Ron, did the mods put that in? Like when you apply to join, it's not an open group.
Absolutely.
Right? You have to be approved.
You have to apply to it.
It's like there's going to be shit talk, and if you complain and report us to Facebook, you're getting booted.
Yeah,
I mean, you got to put that right up front.
No, and they did that, but it still happened, and so a bunch of funny guys over there, tons of Cubs fans.
Put on your big boy pants and come on in.
Exactly. The phrase over there is P.A.B, which goes for pussy ass bitch. Don't be one. And so I think that's a phrase they came up with.
I think we have an episode title.
We do. P.A.B's Midwest Central Fight Club. Good a bunch of good guys over there who have a sense of humor and can talk shit, just like we used to back in the locker room back when we were all in high school. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So toughen up, Buttercup. Great talking to you all. Great being back on here tonight. Glad I found the just the desire to do this again. I really wanted to. So it was great having you on again, Derrick. Always fun linking back up with you on any kind of podcast. And you guys, love you both.
Go fuck yourself.
Even the temporary guy. Love him too. All right, everyone. We'll talk to you all again in next week or in 2 to 3 weeks. And whatever the fuck we all feel like doing this again. We know we're that time of the month. When you hear Team Rivals podcast, oh shit, it must be that time of the month. And here we are. But we might be back again next week. Love you all so much. Bye-bye, everyone.